Hello, my fellow shop rat. I'm just curious. Maybe you can answer this for me. What got you interested in building cars? What got you interested in all the stuff that we do here at my car shop? It's a good question. Today it's a Talk About It Tuesday, and that's what you and I are going to talk about. I'm Mike, and as you know, this is my car shop. Let's face it, something got you hooked. Could be something when you were a kid. It could be something when you were in the womb. It could be something that happened when you were a teenager, but something got you hooked, and the hook has never been taken out. And you've been your entire life when it comes to the cars and the car bug. And well, I get it, because obviously you've seen the channel and it's exactly me, 100%. So let me share my story, and then you can share yours. I'd have you share yours first, but probably not have any place to share yours until I get this video out, and then you can drop it in the comments. You wouldn't know to share yours over on Facebook or Instagram until you see this. So let me go first if you don't mind, and then I want to hear your story. So just like I asked you, you're asking me, what got me hooked? Well, I always like to joke that my mom dropped me on my head when I was a child, but she probably did. But that's probably not the only reason how I got this way. Cars go as far back in my life and in my world, as far back as I can remember. There was always something happening with the cars. My dad worked on his cars. My uncles worked on their cars. My grandfather on my dad's side worked on his car. It goes way back, but he even lived in a neighborhood where we had a guy who had a couple of old Mopars, believe it or not, and I don't remember exactly what they were at this point, but they were definitely Mopars. And one of these days I'm going to ask my dad, if you're watching this, would you please dig those pictures out? I want to see what those cars were that I think his name was Dave had parked in the lot next to the house. I know they were a couple of Mopars, but I don't remember what they were. Cars have always been a subject of conversation in my family whenever we get together, from the time immemorial that I can remember, at least on my dad's side for the most part. But I do remember that my uncles on my mom's side both had some pretty cool cars, and in fact one of her brothers had Mopars. He had a Super B and a Dart Sport. I remember those two for sure. So there was all kinds of cool stuff always related to cars. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, I must have had a natural interest a little bit to pay attention to all that, to be able to remember all of that all these 6 decades later. I think the second element in things was I was always taking stuff apart, much probably to my dad's chagrin, because I remember him saying, "Why did you take that apart? It wasn't broken." Well, it is now. But that was the curiosity. That was the learning. Bicycles. Just like I have multiple cars, I always had multiple bicycles. I remember when I was in grade school, I think up through 7th grade, I had my very first bike, which was just a little kid's bike almost. And that became my BMX bike when I got my nice 3-speed bike, and then I picked up another bike, and for a while I had an old 10-speed I got from a buddy, and then I got a brand new 10-speed, and I never got rid of any of those bikes. I had them all until we moved. After we moved, I immediately set out to get more bikes, and so I had my 10-speed, and then I ended up building myself a BMX bike from a junk frame that I found, and we went around and found wheels and bought tires, and I ended up putting that bike together, and it even had a Rebel flag and a 01 on the front, so that tells you when that was in the 70s. But even as a grade school kid, I remember picking up an old lawnmower motor and wanting to put that on the push go-kart that my dad had made for me. And we had even toyed around with using an old starter motor with a battery to drive that go-kart. We never got that done, but that led me to being interested in all things motors. So when I was in junior high and after we had moved, I picked up another lawnmower that somebody was throwing out. I picked up the motor, I found the lawnmower frame, tore the motor apart, fixed it, and I actually got it running. I never did use it to mow lawn, but I've always had a fascination with things mechanical. Lo and behold, in my junior high years when we were living in Kentucky, I made a friend whose name was, I believe, Mark. I always wonder what happened to Mark. Mark, Shoemaker, I think his name was. Mark, if you ever see this, drop me a note, buddy. He had a motorcycle. He had a couple of them, and I helped him. I don't know what I was doing, but I helped him put that motor together on that motorcycle, and we tried to get it running, and we did, and we actually rode it for a while, and that was fun. And that led me to, after we moved from Kentucky back to Michigan, that led me to ultimately being interested in motorcycles and buying one, then 2, then 4, then 6, then 10. And my buddy Dave and I, my best friend Dave, who you've heard me talk about, he died a couple of years ago here. We probably had 50 bikes between the two of us for a while. And of course, all that time, by then I was into cars, and so, I had cars. Not just one, but 3, 4, maybe 5 cars at a time. Of course, in there, which I forgot to mention, was also snowmobiles, because we live in the north, so I had snowmobiles that I would buy and fix up and tinker with and ride around and break and buy and fix up and tinker with and break. I won't get into that today. But I traded, and that's the reason I remember this. I had a 500 CFM twin motoski snowmobile that I traded for a 1968, I thought was a Plymouth Roadrunner. Turned out it was a Satellite that was a Roadrunner clone. I traded that snowmobile for that body of that 68 Plymouth. I had also traded something, I don't remember what it was, but I had traded something or another for a 70 Dodge pickup that had a 383 and a 4-speed. It happened to be a B-body 4-speed that somebody shoehorned in that truck. I didn't know any of that back then, but it was a running and driving truck. All it was a cab with no doors. Not even sure it had fenders. It definitely didn't have a box. It was tons of fun. But I ended up pulling the motor out of that, and there was an automatic transmission in that Plymouth, so I hooked that 383 up with that automatic transmission and built my first car. It was red with a black bumblebee stripe and a black vinyl top. And it just kind of went from there. By then, I was already enrolled in farm shop in school, and then the next year I was in auto shop at the tech center. And, well, one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, I'm going off to tech school when I get out of high school to learn auto diesel mechanics at Lincoln Tech in Indianapolis, Indiana. But wait, there's more. While I was in tech school, I worked a short time as a mechanic at a place called Guarantee Auto. I ended up dropping out of tech school and deciding to go to college, and did a couple years of junior college, and then went off to university. And as I was in university, I realized I was going to be probably 7 years out of high school before I ever finished my degree if I ever continued on the path that I was on. So I decided that I would see about taking all of the credits I had from tech school and applying them to my major. I was a liberal studies major. I was a history major working on my bachelor's degree, and I wanted to do a music minor, but I realized that was going to add almost 2 more years because I was basically starting from scratch 2 or 3 years out of high school. So I went to my department advisor and talked to him, said I would like to take this year of more than a year of tech school credit and see if we can apply it towards my major. He said, nope, can't do that. Well, I'm not one to take no for an answer, if you know me at all. So I went to my department head and explained to her that I could attend Central Michigan University and they would apply these tech school credits. Why can't Northern Michigan University do the same thing? So as a result, I was the first person to graduate from Northern Michigan University with a liberal studies major and a tech minor. While I was at university, I also got a job working in a hot rod shop locally. I started out sweeping floors and worked my way up into doing mechanical work. I built engines for the shop and also did some body work. Ended up being the assistant manager of the store before I was done there. About that time, Becky fell pregnant with our son, and I realized I needed a little better job with insurance, so I went to work as a mechanic in a local Chrysler dealer. Some of this I've said before, and this isn't about my career, it's about my passion for cars, but I can't separate that in those early years because so much of my career, which led me through working in dealerships and then working in as an engineer in the wreck marine industry and also sort of in the auto industry, has just always been a part of my life. But all through that time, I always had 1, 2, 6 toy cars, classic cars, whatever you want to call it. It's just always been that 10W30 or whatever has always been in my blood. I've always had multiple projects. I've always had multiple cars, multiple motorcycles, multiple snowmobiles, multiple bicycles. I don't remember if I ever had multiple lawnmowers, but I tend to be a person who thinks in the macro, and more is better. No matter what I was doing, I was always thumbing through Jake's catalogs and Tex Smith magazines and catalogs and custom car magazines, and there was just so much stuff, and I really fell in love with the fat vendor cars when I worked in the hot rod shop. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, but it's always been a thing. There was only a very short window of time in my life, and it was due to practical reasons, where I just kind of set all of that aside and didn't do much, and it was just because life was so ridiculously stressful, and I was working over 100 hours a week for such a long period of time that there just wasn't time for it, but it was always in the back of my mind. So why do I love it so much? I think because so much of my life has been surrounding it, but I also think there's just this natural proclivity in me to create. I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I'm a songwriter, I'm a fabricator. I like creating things with my mind and with my hands. It's even why I've been self-employed as a business owner. I like creating businesses. It's just naturally who I am. And My Car Shop, the YouTube channel, which only happened because my beautiful wife said, as I was early in the pandemic, she said, you know, you're watching these YouTube channels and you have a message to give, and you should probably as I already had the My Car Shop YouTube channel, but she said you should probably take that channel and expand it and share what you do, because I know what you do isn't always what everybody else does. So here we are today, good, bad, or indifferent. That's where we're at. It's not just a hobby with me, it's an obsession. I've never followed the rules, and yes, even though I said in a recent video, or maybe it's one that's coming, I've gone to school, as you know. I do know how things are supposed to be done. Just because that's what they teach in school doesn't mean there's not other ways, and so much of this channel is sharing the old school stuff that I learned from guys who never went to school, learning what I learned from guys that did it back in the day, long before there was recommended stuff. That's where I learned a lot of the stuff that I know. And it's no big names, it's nobody you know. It's the local guys who had a reputation that became my friends and who were willing to teach me stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that I picked up on my own. Aside from being the lead singer, frontman, and lead guitar player for Iron Fist, another genre of music that I absolutely love is the Rat Pack. And if you're familiar with Sinatra's song, I Did It My Way, I don't know that I've ever covered that one, but I've covered a lot of Sinatra tunes, and people say it's probably my best style of music to do. If you're on my other social media, you've seen me do some of those tunes. But anyway, I Did It My Way is definitely my life theme. I may not follow the rules. My last name is Rule, so I tend to write my own anyway. I am my own rule. Haha, seriously. If you make it safe, and if you make it done, and you're having fun, how could it possibly be wrong? So this is my obsession. This is what I love to do. I love to do things my way. I love to do things according to what I've learned from people back in the day, guys who did it back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Of course, I started doing this stuff in the 70s myself. I've been very fortunate and to learn some things that maybe are a little bit outside the box. All right, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Share yours with me. I'd love to hear from you. Drop me an email, drop some comments, meet me over on Instagram or in our Facebook group or our Facebook page. You can find the MKS Fabricating page, MKS Fabricating and something or another, or you can find the My Car Shop business page, or you can find My Car Shop on YouTube. You're on YouTube, on Instagram. We're everywhere. We're kind of like dog crap you stepped in. We're everywhere. that'll do it on this one. Like, share, subscribe. We have channel memberships for as little as $5 a month. You get all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff. We have giveaways on a regular basis. It's time again to do another Super Clean giveaway. We'll be doing that soon, so watch for that. There are always giveaways you never know we're doing until you win. That's the fun of it. So stick around and engage in the channel, and you too might just win. We'll catch you on the next one.
Roar!